All right, it's day 4 of our festival season, like we said, and the series that we are carrying out this week. And today, let's talk food. In India, food is more than just nutrition. It's emotion, it's what's bring people together. It's also a way of showing love. But too much of it, as we all know, can be tricky sometimes, some harm as well. So we thought, let's bring you a healthy way to sustain this festive munch. Now, how to say no when perhaps you know when to stop as well? A lot of these questions constantly on our heads, right?
Right, and you're always told these tips when it comes to Diwali, right? So one is often go for the nuts, go for the makhana, don't go for the gujia, don't go for the jalebis. The other thing we're sometimes told is eat at home before you step out. That way you'll be a little full before you go outside. Have fiber so that any alcohol you have, that goes down better in your system. There are all these questions when it comes to how you and your family can snack right. And this Diwali season, we wanted to bring you the lowdown because remember, it isn't just Diwali season. In the next few months, you're going to have Diwali, weddings. Right after that, you're going to have Christmas, New Year's. So the next few months are actually going to be quite hard for us. We thought we'd bring you the breakdown.
Right, on that note, let's bring in our guests, and glad to have with us this morning, Lucatino. He needs no introduction, but let me attempt. He's an Indian entrepreneur. He's the author of several books and an integrative lifestyle expert specializing in nutritional science and alternative medicine. He's the co-founder of Lucatino Holistic Healing Systems Private Limited, and also Your Care Lifestyle. Big, long introduction there for Luke. We also have with us Digvijaya Singh. He's a holistic health coach. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Luke, let me start with you. When it comes to Diwali snacking, you have a very different approach. You've been talking about it all starts with not just what you're eating, but where it's coming from, including these orders, these quick delivery orders that we are making all the time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Just one correction. It's not alternative medicine. It's integrative. Big difference. But coming to, yes, I have a very different perspective on this. We live in a country today where we can have Diwali sweets. It's Diwali. We should enjoy it. But the point is, where is it coming from? There's a lot of food adulteration in the country right now. So we should stick from buying it from places that we trust, places that we know, not based on price points where there are brands coming up with lower prices, but we don't know what color is in, what ingredients are in, because there's a lot of food adulteration right now in the country. The second biggest issue is our ordering on these platforms where hot food is put into plastic. It is an established scientific and medical factor today that this hot food in plastic is breaking down plastic into leaching chemicals that are linked to obesity, hormonal disruption, certain cancers, and reproductive, issues. So I just want to, instill into people that start asking your delivery partners to start looking for sustainable options. Many restaurants are doing that. They're serving food in biodegradable bamboo, silicone, and people are happy to pay that price. But people have the right to that option because hot food in plastic is absolutely detrimental for health.
Luke, we've actually been highlighting just the importance of, so as you're saying, the importance of looking at the source of your food, looking at, for example, if artificial colors are being used or not, if choices can be made there. We'll go over quickly to Digvijaya. Digvijaya, I just want to ask you, when your clients come to you and just tell us broadly here, do you tell your clients, look, it's holiday season, know that you need to be a little relaxed with the food you're going to be eating, be realistic? Or are there ways in which you tell them, look, continue to be careful in this season too? Do you basically say exercise discipline, or it's all right, enjoy, this is India after all?
That's a great question. How I approach this is I tell them it's all about those 365 days where there are like 5 to 6 days of festivities. So just continue with a normal routine, right? Because once you go into that vacation mindset, you're like, let's go all out. Let's binge eat, let's eat whatever comes our way. So when that thought process is there, you tend to eat a lot more. So I tell them this is like a regular days with maybe a little more sweets, maybe a little more things that your family has made or your friends have got or somebody invited that has invited you would offer you, right? So there's a sentiment added to it. Control the portion when it comes your way. Let's say your mom has made something for you with love. You go ahead, you have a small portion of it, right? You go to your friend's house, he offers you something, you just take a small portion of it. So that is how I approach it, Maybe you can, maybe let's say you've been called for dinner. So you have like a light lunch, right? You take your protein, you take your good fats, and then you go for the dinner. And even if it's in a surplus, it'll balance itself. So I think, rather than stressing over it too much, I ask them to enjoy, but at the same time, take measures like, portion control, maybe walking should be slightly more, and there shouldn't be any guilt. That is what I tell them. Go back to your routine. Let's say you ate a little more today, go back to your regular routine tomorrow. And then maybe, this is how people learn as well.
Okay.
So that's how I approach it.
All very wise words, and it seems like simple to follow, but the point is, how do you make it happen? How do you stop at that first bite of jalebi and not indulge more? That is the biggest question, and how to inculcate those habits is what I want to sort of get into as well. Luke, if we were to look at your timeline, even on Diwali, I don't know how it works, but on your timeline, you're constantly having vegetable juice and seeds and lots of good fat and fiber. But for those who are taking a break this Diwali, as everybody should, that's the whole point of this festival, how do you tell them to sort of approach this? If you know there is a big meal or a big night coming up, how do you prep yourself the day before and the day after?
So I think it's very simple. While you may see a vegetable juice and nuts and seeds, I also will eat Diwali sweets. I also will have Christmas cake. But the point is, like Digvijaya mentioned, it's important how we look at that day. If I know I'm going to go out, have a dinner, I'm going to have sweets, because no one can have one bite of jalebi and stop. It's impossible. Someone really has to be disciplined for that. So the point is, how does the body work? How does anatomy work? How does biology work? So if I can train my body on that day, even a 30-minute strength training workout, or I do even a 4-minute Tabata, which is a high interval training, I build my metabolic response for actually handling extra calories. Of course, we all know we should eat in, moderation. I love Digvijaya's point on guilt, because I think guilt messes up hormones in the body. If you're eating something, just eat it and enjoy it, but don't eat it with guilt. So I think what we would do to prepare on these days is we have 24 hours on Diwali and these 5 days. Nothing changes. Maybe our sleep will be less, maybe the food will be more, but I can still pull out 30 minutes or 45 minutes for a workout. I can still control my breakfast. I can still control my lunch. So you see, we kind of compensate and we can yet have a great time. And of course, when it comes to overeating, my question to everyone is enjoy, but why should we overeat? Why should we overeat? Have a little bit of every sweet that you want, but don't overeat. So that's how you kind of balance it. Don't miss that workout. That workout primes us. It's like an engine. It kind of primes our body for what may come later in the evening and at night.
Okay, let me ask you, Digvijaya, then.
Earn your calories then.
We hear sometimes that there are healthier choices in snacks. So you'll hear, for example, go for, a more milk-focused, protein-focused snacks. So I'm talking about desserts, for example, Shrikhand, Sandesh, or in your nuts, go for your peanuts over your cashew nuts. I want to ask you, do you tell your clients, look, that's rubbish, just enjoy, everything has oil on it, everything has salt on it? Or is there a way to intelligently snack when you're going to other people's houses?
Let's say I'm going to somebody's house and they have very limited portion. So, instead of asking them or demanding them for something particular, I'll see whatever is available in front of me. Let's say they have some roasted nuts or roasted seeds, I'll take a little bit of it. Let's say they offer me a gujia. If I have people who can share the food, I'll maybe I'll cut the gujia in half, or I'll have it as it is. But definitely, let's say you can, there are multiple options these days. Makhanas are a great option. Roasted nuts and seeds are a great option. So otherwise, there are anjeer sweets, sweets made of anjeer. There are sugar-free sweets if you are into sugar-free snacking. So all these options are always there, but you make the best out of whatever you have in front of you and, enjoy it mindfully. A small portion of something which has sugar or something fried is not really going to harm you, right? Too much of it might harm you. So that is how I see healthy snacking. Right. And if you're inviting somebody to your house, then definitely you can have a buffet of healthy snacks and a mix of both. So that's how I would approach it.
Yeah. Luke, conventional wisdom tells us that this entire month before Diwali comes in, there are a lot of fasts in our Hindu calendar, so to say. There is Navratri, today, for example, is Ahoy Ashtami. There are so many things. Is this something that we should take a cue from and tell ourselves that maybe fasting before or even after, so-called, what we say, detox in today's world, is a good option?
You're absolutely right. That's conventional wisdom, and it exists in all religions. There's Ramadan, then there's the Navratri before Diwali, and it's perfect because humans are still, we're based on evolution, fasting and feasting. It's always been that way, except that we feast a little too much and fast a little too less these days. But yes, absolutely yes, there is a conventional wisdom to the placement of these fasting periods before major festivals, which is why it brings me to another great point. On these 5 days of Diwali, even if your fasting increases, it's fantastic. It's feasting and fasting. So let's say you have a late night dinner, you're over by midnight. Okay, try not to eat for at least the next 14 to 15 to 16 hours. Of course, if you have a medical issue, please don't do that. But we can actually build a beautiful balance of fasting and feasting, but I advise people not to make fasting starvation. Just because you ate too much, now don't be guilty and starve yourself. Fasting and starving are two very different things. So you could also build a nice fasting of even 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 hours, depending on your capacity, to kind of create that balance. But there is much, much wisdom, especially in our country, when it comes to fasting before festivals and even after.
Wait, Luke, can we ask you there, because you've brought up fasting, I know that when it comes to intermittent fasting, which is slightly different, I know that a lot has been written on how if you're a woman, for example, it will work slightly differently from if you're a man, the hours you can do it for, etc. So I just want to ask you, if our audiences have heard what you've said right now and they're like, okay, I do want to look into this festive season, what would you suggest are good tools to understand what the right way to go about fasting is, how to take into consideration, your age, your sex, all of the other stuff?
So it's actually very simple. If we don't listen to Instagram and we listen to our own body cues, each of us will find out how much our fasting ability is. So let's say I stop dinner at 8 o'clock and it's 8 in the morning. Am I hungry? No. It's 9. Am I hungry? No. At 10, I start to get hungry, but I saw something on Instagram saying it should be only 16 hours and 8 hours. And now I push myself, but my body's hungry. It's asking for nutrients. I would break my fast when my body gives you a hunger cue, not an emotional cue. And that's how each individual can find it. Now, of course, men and women are biologically different. Children, adults can fast different hours. If you have a thyroid problem, you have a lot of stress in your life, you have a hormonal disruption, extending fasts may not be the best thing for you. At the same time, certain hormonal conditions can actually be better when you fast, but you got to listen to hunger cues. Not even a nutritionist, dietitian, or doctor can tell you how many hours to fast. It's your hunger. And when you get that hunger cue, at the most, wait for 10 minutes. The hunger cue continues, break your fast. If it passes, it was just probably, your biorhythm out of habit telling you to eat. So these are two ways to do it, and do it safely. Fasting should never be starving. Intermittent fasting is a fad. Fasting doesn't have a defined time. It can be different for everyone every day. Some days 16, some days 18, some days 10. You cannot take the human physiology and put it into a box. So that's how it works.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah. Also earn your calories in a way, right? Like burn them out, prep your body for a big meal sort of coming up, fasting, exercising, all of this sort of adding up. Can I ask both of you for your favorite treats this Diwali season, or your favorite tricks that you've applied on how to ensure that it remains balanced? We can start with Digvijay, then go to Luke.
I love Indian sweets, especially something that's made at home. A dry fruit laddu during winters is one of the best treat that I think is out there. Maybe like a Goand ka laddu is great. My favorite has to be, gulab jamun, ghevar. But since I know there are so many calories in it, so I try to limit it at least, let's say once a month. I just reduce the portion, because ghevar is usually comes in big size. So no matter how small it is, somewhere around 600 to 800 calories. I try to limit it. Yeah. So I'll tell you how I approach it. Let's say if I'm going out for a treat, I make sure that I have a small meal at home. Maybe not all the time, but usually when I know that I'll go out, I might eat a lot. I tend to follow my regular meals with slightly bigger portions of maybe a little more protein, a little more fiber. So that I'm fuller. I don't have sugar spikes. I don't have cravings while going for the meal, because once that is there, you tend to eat slightly more, right? So make sure you're well fed, so you're not starving when you are there, and you just then you mindfully pick things which you really want to try, and that's about it. So even if my favorite sweets are ghevar, gulab jamun, or any other Indian sweets, I try to pick small portions of it because I know it's slightly higher in calories. So that is how I approach my cravings.
Luke, can you give us yours and also talk a little bit about liquid calories, which we don't understand gulping, especially this time of the year?
All right, so starting off with your question, I love all sweets. I love all sweets, and I'm going to enjoy all of them because the only thing that won't change in my day is my exercise and everything else. If I know I'm going to have sweets, I'm definitely going to cut down my carbohydrates at all other meals. I'm going to keep my protein the same, which is adequate for my body. And yep, I'll have my fiber from my vegetables and my fruits. I think the most important thing is people worry about gaining fat. You need to understand one thing. There is no fat loss diet. It's all lipolysis. If I keep insulin levels low in the body, that's what allows fat cells to actually unlock and you can burn fat. So for that, to keep insulin low, it's everything we spoke about. It's everything Digvijaya spoke about as well. You know, keeping your calories, not overeating, fasting, balancing it with fiber, balancing it with protein. So if we can keep insulin low, you know, we are not going to put on fat and we are going to burn fat way more efficiently. Now, coming to liquid calories, yeah, liquid calories, people think that drinking fruit juices, for example, is a healthy thing. Eating a fruit is healthy if it suits you, but drinking a fruit juice is just a glass of sugar because you've broken down the fiber, the protein. You will get a little bit of vitamins, but the mixing process, the blending process, heat can denature most of those vitamins. All your aerated drinks, all your sports drinks, these are liquid calories. These are well marketed, deceitfully marketed, you know, products and beverages that are making our country sicker and sicker. There are a lot of calories, even if it's zero sugar. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be harmful for you. It doesn't mean that it's not going to mess up your insulin levels, which is the biggest cause for weight gain in our country.
Okay.
I see. I see lots of good tips over there on how to schedule what part of your meal, how to schedule your day, what to do before, after. So thank you both, gentlemen, for joining us this morning and wish you both a very happy Diwali, an indulgent one, especially for the two of you.
Thank you so much. Happy Diwali.
Thank you so
Goodbye.
much.
Happy Diwali.
Thank you so much. Happy Diwali. Bye-bye.